If you'd like to support the channel, the best way is to just join us over at the Goosh, which is the loving name we have for our Patreon. Yeah, we're a bunch of anime nerds over there, but we have a really good time, and we'd love to have you along. And to be honest, it's the Gooshers that make everything we do here possible. With his continued references to his nuclear capabilities, I've been wondering a lot about the process, the machinations for Putin to actually use his nuclear weapons, at any level. So I started reading up on it a little bit because what I'm trying to get to is how many people are involved. Okay, that's not a one-man operation, and you just have to wonder overall, as we've talked about, what is the take on this situation, on this invasion of Ukraine, not only from the regular citizens of Russia, which we know there are a significant number of them who are not pleased with it, but the oligarchs and the other people in Putin's upper echelon circle there. So say Vlad decides that he wants to whip out his nukes and just show the world how big they are. What has to take place? Because Vlad can't hit the proverbial button and have them just launch, as far as I understand. There have to be a lot of other people involved. So I started reading up on it, and I got kind of frustrated, not because there isn't articles about just that. There are. Most of them are older. But beyond that, I got thinking about it, and really none of us knows exactly what the process would look like. The people that write these articles, and again, if you want to look it up, I don't have any linked because there's a bunch of them. You can just search it, and you can use any one of a number of broad search terms to find it. Vladimir Putin uses nuclear weapons. What if Russia uses nuclear weapons? How does Russia use nuclear weapons? All that'll bring the articles up. But it's still the best guesses from some very intelligent people and some very knowledgeable people who are probably have a good handle on a large part of it, but really the finality of it, the nuts and bolts of it, we don't know what Putin's put in place. I fear at this point what it would be is he has as limited number of people between him and launching that nuke as possible. But from the way I understand it, there still has to be a person or people on the ground turning those keys, flipping those switches. And will they do it? The downside for me is I think Putin, at least prior to whatever state of mind he's in now, was always strategic enough that he would have people that were willing to be blindly allegiant to him in those positions, both in the upper level and, on the front lines, actually turning those keys. But if anybody feels like they have, because we have a lot of people, we have a lot of Russians here with us in our community. We have a lot of people from that entire region. We have a significant number of people who seem to have a lot of knowledge about what goes on there. If you have any more details on that, by all means, put it in the comments, because I really, really enjoy reading that stuff. What would be the case? I mean, is there any place along the line where somebody or something can step up and say, you know what, Vlad, no, we ain't doing this today? The other thing I want to talk about is, okay, where do we see this invasion going in the immediacy? And boy, I so wish I had a cheerier outlook on that than I do. What seems to be happening, what is going to take place is, I do think the Ukrainian people are amazing, and that they've fought this hard and this effectively for this long is just stunning. And I fully believe that nobody is more stunned and taken aback by that than Vladimir Putin. However, it's just a numbers game. The numbers of weapons, of soldiers, of everything are so heavily in Russia's favor. And I think that we're going to see even more disregard for civilian life, so that the bigger bombs, the bigger weapons, the bigger destruction can take place in the coming days. And I hope I'm wrong. This is strictly my opinion. I hope I'm wrong with that. I don't, just from what we're seeing with troop movement and everything, I don't think I am. So what would that mean? if Russia does take the Ukraine, and you know what gets me too, before I get too deep into that, supposedly Russia is going after the Ukraine because of the threat of a NATO state on their borders. And if they take the Ukraine, say the Ukraine becomes part of Russia, don't they add 3 or 4 more nations, NATO nations, onto their border? But if we try and look for true rationale in why this is being done, any real rational reason for Russia to invade Ukraine, it's an endless rabbit hole. There is none. There is none. The only true rational reason for it is Putin's desire to bring back the old USSR and his basic megalomania. You will see a lot of people all over social media defending Putin's actions. You'll see a lot of people complaining that not enough attention is being paid to their particular situation. All that has no real bearing on anything. There is a very, very real, significant number of Russian bots out there. I know in social media, people like to call everyone who disagrees with them a Russian bot, and that gets way over the top. Of course, again, that's the easiest thing to do when, especially if you've been presented with facts that you can't counter with your narrative. But the truth is there are a lot of them out there. It's something that Russia has been actively taking part in for some time. So pretty much throw away anything from somebody who's really trying to make a cogent case as to why this has deserved Russia's invasion or why it's a good thing. They are either bots or idiots. So don't pay any attention, period. There's nothing else. Bots or idiots. So don't pay a lot of attention to it. But back to the topic. If the Ukraine gets taken over by Russia, first of all, I think you will see resistance for years. I think it will be a very, very difficult occupation for Russia. And I think at some point they may well back off it, or at least big parts of it, because the Ukrainian people have already shown an insane amount of resiliency. There's some tough bastards over there. Men, women, and children. And I don't think they're going to take an occupation and just accept it. So I think there's that. But in the larger scale, what it accomplishes for Russia is a negative loss. A negative loss is a negative. We cannot allow the sanctions to go away anytime soon. I know they hurt the Russian people, and that's unfortunate because a lot of the Russian people obviously do not want this. But we have to get to the oligarchs. We have to try and get to the people in Putin's circle. The only people, I think, at this point, because the rest of the world is too reticent to get involved militarily, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Nobody wants World War III. And if Putin is bluffing, he's put together a big bluff here that people are afraid to call him on, which is understandable. So I think the only way this stops without a conquering, unfortunately, of Ukraine is if the people in Russia rise up in big enough numbers, or if there is some people within the upper echelon of Russian government around Putin who are willing to take the piece of shit out. Man, I wish there was I could see another quality or best quality. There's no quality resolution, but a best in the circumstances resolution to this. But that's about it. Although the numbers, from what we're seeing, it seems like the numbers of people in Russia who are vehemently against this seem to be growing, but so does the number of them that keep getting thrown into prison. So I don't know I don't know who wins in that pushing contest, that push against shove. But I think that's the only way we keep Ukraine from being overwhelmed by the Russians. I hope I'm wrong, but we're going to find out in the coming days. In the next few days, I think Russia is going to make a big push to where, again, they bring out all the heavy artillery short of nukes, and Putin's already shown he really doesn't care how many civilians he kills. And that's just going to become more and more obvious as we go. And unfortunately, I think it will overwhelm the Ukraine. Let's just hope that there are people within Russia, a significant enough number of them, or some that are located well enough within the hierarchy there to take this idiot out.